It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
Oh my goodness, fall has found its way to the beautiful Ozarks. It's a good morning to pour up a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and join us for this week's edition of Watts on Wealth, the radio show. I'm Ralph Hipp, your host both here on the radio and on all the major network television broadcast stations through the Ozarks. Barry and I are on TV on KY3, Color 10, KSPR 33, and KRBK Fox 5, along with J. Barry Watts, the main retirement designer and tax strategist and the founder of the WealthCare Corporation. He and his team, Matt and Jeremy and the whole group, they serve clients around the nation from the headquarters right here at 65 and Battlefield Road in Springfield. On our show this Sunday morning, we've got some insights on Social Security, and we're going to talk about the new Trump accounts, which came in with the recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill. First of all, before we do anything, we say, Barry, hello, how are you? It's always great to talk to you. What's happening with you in the Ozarks?
Well, good morning, Ralph. It's great to be with you today. All is well, and it's a
Very
super
good.
day to be alive and on the right side of the grass, you know.
To be vertical.
Yeah,
it's
better.
it's all good.
Better than horizontal. Well, depends. There's a lot of philosophical things we get into here. We'll let most of those go today, unless my co-partner in crime here on the show today decides to help. Jeremy Zickefoose is in the studio as our co-host.
Our sidekick.
Or would he be a co-host or would he be a tri-host? I don't know. Anyway, you, me, and Jeremy, here we are, all on the radio.
Yep.
And so we're going to talk about a lot of fun and interesting things today. You know, Ralph, it's a beautiful day. It really is. And I love fall so much. It used to be that I would not travel in October. So, you know, I travel quite a bit around the country, and I would say, no, sorry, I don't accept any trips in October because I wanted to be at home soaking up that golden sunshine and those crisp days. Unfortunately, I have to travel now, even in October, but it's a beautiful time of the year. And I sure love living here and doing what we get to do. You may know, I may have mentioned previously, I don't remember, there was recently a report issued back in June about caring.com from them. And they said the 3 best places to live in America were Arkansas, number 1, Missouri, number 2, and Kansas, number 3.
We're right in the middle of it, right in the middle of it all.
I thought that was interesting. It's right here in this particular part of the world. And perhaps that explains all the different accents that we get in our part of the country. You know, a lot of people retiring here to the Branson area. So you can get lots of accents that you can ferret out and say, oh, that's South Dakota, that's Minnesota, that's Chicago. I had a guy in the office earlier this week. He was an Italian from St. Louis. And he commented on my accent. And he thought my accent was some sort of a shtick. I guess he hadn't lived among the hillbillies long enough to know, no, this is just the way we talk. And so whether it's radio, TV, or in person, as with him, this is the sound we get. I suppose, though, I might sound different if I were in prison.
How so?
Yeah, you might.
Had an interesting case this week that cropped up. One of the things people can do from our show, you know, is call us. And they'll speak with one of our advisors. In this case, Jeremy, who's sitting with me today. Yep. Jeremy took this particular call. And as it turned out, you were taking a call from a girlfriend of somebody who was in prison.
Yeah, there's a fiance of someone who watches our TV show every week in prison and wanted to have some questions answered from us.
So we, you know, to my knowledge, we've never had a call from prison before. And this wasn't really from prison. This was from prison through the fiance.
Yeah.
But it might as well have been from prison. So apparently our TV show, Watts on Wealth, is popular in the Missouri Department of Corrections. So
popular
maybe
behind
it was
bars.
FedMed over here. I don't know.
I have no idea.
They could have been in the federal prison. See, I wish you'd ask more questions.
Yeah.
And I tried to get Jeremy, why didn't you ask what he was in for? And he didn't ask those questions. So,
is it the Federal Reception Center there in Springfield? Was it from that place? Or was actual corrections lockup?
Yeah, well, that's FedMed. And we've got people who are spending their entire time here in FedMed in Springfield as well. So we don't know where they came from. But hey, good news. Something has been unlocked. So you're not going to be imprisoned in Missouri anymore on capital gains. Missouri's gone tax-free on capital gains. So when you file your state tax return, you no longer have to worry about paying taxes on capital gains. You know, we had some clients in this week, both of whom had $100,000 each in capital gains. And both of them, because of strategies we were able to bring to them, were able to avoid all the state tax on their capital gains. They both got to avoid all the federal tax, and then you get to avoid all the state tax because of this new law that has come into Missouri. So pretty much for all of our clients who are using the strategies we teach at WealthCare, capital gains are kind of a thing of the past in terms of having to pay tax on them. We still experience them. We just get to enjoy them and profit from them without having to pay the tax. And that's a pretty special way to manage investments and taxes for our clients here at the WealthCare Corporation.
Hey, capital ideas for you to call Barry. You can text the word visit right now as you're listening to our show. Text VISIT or call them first thing tomorrow. And also text the word book to get the book, Watts on Wealth. That number, the magic number, 417-200-3500, 200-3500. And from Rolla to Rogersville and beyond, you're listening to Watts on Wealth, the radio show. Barry, let me allude back to something. Let me repeat this line about the new Trump accounts, part of the one big, beautiful bill. Talk about those. What are they? And do they offer any real advantages for our Ozarks retirees?
Well, no, they don't offer advantages for retirees because that's not what they're for. These are for kids. And so I've not actually been asked this question by anybody in the office yet, but there is in one big, beautiful bill, the introduction of new, what they're calling Trump accounts. And the government is going to create an account, probably like the government creates a Social Security account for you. And it'll probably happen when the Social Security account is assigned for any child born between 2025 and 2028. Now, I said 2025. I think it actually starts in 2026. I need to go back and look at that.
You're right.
Is it 2025?
Yeah, it starts January 1st of 25 through December 31st of 28.
All right. Very good. I couldn't recall clearly there. And so think of it as a baby shower gift. What's going to happen is the government's going to put $1,000 into the account for your child if they're born in those years. And it's for the long term. You can't withdraw it and spend it right away. Parents or grandparents could add another $5,000 if they wanted to after tax. There's no tax benefit from doing that. And by the way, I wouldn't do that. And so this money is going to be invested in low-cost index funds like the S&P 500. And when the child turns 18, they are able to then essentially convert it to an IRA. They begin treating it according to IRA rules with regard to withdrawals. So when I was a kid, like a baby in August of 1963, Jack Kerr down from Kerr's Landing on the James River at Galena, where people put in their boat, Jack Kerr gave me a Barlow knife as a baby. And so that's what I got out of the deal. I still have the Barlow knife today. But do you know, if on the same day the federal government had deposited $1,000 into that account when I was born in 1963, today it'd be worth about $350,000.
Gosh.
And Jeremy, do you know what my dad, himself a Stone County hillbilly, Jim Watts, living out in Republic, what he would say about that $350,000?
What he would say about it?
Yeah, what do you think he would say about that?
Well, that's a lot of money.
No. He would say, well, beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick.
Sure
and
does.
Dad would be right. It does beat a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. So you want to be sure if you have a baby born in those years, 25 through 28, you want to be sure that you get signed up. Problem is, I don't know how to tell you to sign up. I'm guessing it's going to be a checkbox on your tax return. So the government's trying to figure out how to accelerate this and get it implemented, and we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I believe they're going to be becoming effective on July 4th of 2026 is when those are going to, at least that's when the government's saying they're going to start initiating all of this.
Okay, well, see, you had a piece of information I didn't have.
Oh,
so how
okay.
about that?
Very good. Once again, that Barry number, 417-200-3500. As we all learn more about these new accounts from the big, beautiful bill, do you think, Barry, is this the beginning of privatizing Social Security? We've mentioned on the show the trust fund may well run out in 8 years. So privatizing Social Security, your thoughts on that?
Well, we could only hope this is the beginning of privatizing Social Security. If you realized how the government has robbed from you, I think you'd be more angry than you are. So think about Social Security for a minute. Ralph, it's, I think, not a real secret here, so I can probably just ask you this question. How big is your Social Security check?
Yeah, it's about the average, or a little under $2,000 a month. And,
Okay.
Sheila gets some, I get some.
So if you're in
around
the
$2,000
TV business as a news anchor, maybe it's different if you were like Tom Brokaw on the NBC Nightly News.
Oh, my goodness.
But if you're in a news anchor in Springfield or in Southwest Missouri, it's about a $2,000 check. And that is about the average monthly amount that people get from Social Security. Now, over the years that you work, on average, you contribute about $240,000 to your Social Security because it's held out of your check. and your employer matches that. So a total of about $480,000 has been set aside, invested, if you want to use that term, so that you could get a Social Security check, and the average check is $2,000 a month. So what that means is you're getting about 5% of what was contributed every year. But the question is, where is all the growth for the past 40 years? Well, the answer is it was siphoned off by the government. Because if you had put that same $1,000 per month into an investment account for these past 40 years, and you earned just 7% per year, which is quite feasible to have done, well, then you'd have somewhere between $6 and $7 million in your account. And if you withdrew just 4% per year off of that, then you'd be receiving about $20,000 a month, roughly $250,000 a year. So what that means is, Ralph, the average Social Security recipient is being screwed by the government to the tune of about $18,000 per month because ignorant people designed the system to benefit the government instead of the worker. And so I'll just go out and on a limb here and say this. When they tell you that the Democrats are the party of the working man, don't you believe it? Because they and the big government Republicans have destroyed that piece of your retirement. And in my opinion, they should be held accountable. And Ralph, if people realized how bad the scam is and what the government is doing to them in this area and all the others, oh my goodness, the peasants with pitchforks would certainly march on Washington.
Talk about the fire and the pitchforks and the boos and the hisses. Would we hear boos and hisses when we hear about possibly allowing Social Security to be invested in the stock market? That's been mentioned before.
Well, it depends on what crowd you're with. Certainly uninformed people would say that. The Democrats would tend to say that. And the simple fact is they don't have command of the facts. You see, what they're afraid of is market volatility. Oh, I don't want to put it in there and risk it moving around up and down, might lose money in it. Well, hey, folks, I got news for you. For an extra $18,000 a month in income, you could probably endure a little market volatility. And by the way, if that money were being invested back into the S&P 500, back into the stock market, it would be going into building the American economy, because that's where stock market investment ultimately goes, is into building companies.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you would think, especially around people like Nancy Pelosi, isn't she pretty famous for having some pretty good stock picks?
Yeah, so I guess all for me and none for thee, I guess is what that attitude is about. So I'm hacked off about this. Unfortunately, I can't get it changed. Burleson can't get it changed. I'll tell you some stories
couldn't
about
do it.
that after we come back from this break.
All right. Reminding you again about Barry Watts' terrific book, which is called Watts on Wealth, and you can buy it on Amazon. It's about $19, but golly, he'll ship you a free copy right now, just as our thanks for listening to the radio show. So to have that free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, shipped to you, text it, BOOK, to that number 417-200-3500, 200-3500, and Barry and the team at the Wealth Care Corporation will put that book in the mail to you first thing Monday morning, so text book right now to that number. Right after the break on the radio show, we'll continue with a couple of questions on Social Security. How does it affect you and the changes? How would that affect your retirement? And we'll talk about taxes when Watts on Wealth, the radio show, continues. So don't go away.
Curious about securing your financial future? Barry Watts brings expertise to your retirement plans. Arrange a meeting by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Again, it's VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at Wealth Care at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at Wealth Care today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
Market volatility can be daunting, but having a strategy in place can provide stability amidst the uncertainty. Consult with us to learn about approaches that address market ups and downs. Call 417-200-3500 to set an appointment and secure your financial footing. Again, just call 417-200-3500.
Welcome back in this lovely Sunday morning. You're listening to What's on Wealth, the radio show. Barry, before we jump into talking about taxes, we do have another Social Security question or two. And if people have saved really well, it's important to them. What substantial changes are we seeing in 2025 in Social Security?
Well, Ralph, I don't think you're going to see any substantial changes. And even if you did, it's too late for you and me because you're on Social Security and I qualify for it, though I haven't taken mine yet and probably won't for another 8 years. Yeah. So for my children who are under age 30 and for the members of my team, Jeremy being one who are under age 30, I hope there are substantial changes. You ought to be allowed to take that Social Security money every 2 weeks when we write you a paycheck. I don't know if you paid close attention to it, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
But there's some withholding on your side for your Social Security, and then I add the same amount to it on my side, and we send that off to the government.
Fantastic.
And they're not doing the right thing with it. So I think it'd be wonderful if they would allow you to have control of how you invest that money. What'll happen, though, is for people who, let's say, are 40 or 50 years old, well, I don't think it would be fair to force that change on them right now. So they might have some kind of a graduated phase in. But the big story, Ralph, is I don't think this is ever going to happen. And the reason I don't think it is going to happen is because when Eric Burleson was elected to Congress, the election was like on Thursday and on Friday. No, the election was on Tuesday. I'm sorry. Silly me. That's when elections are. It's Tuesday. The election was on Tuesday. And that weekend, I think on Sunday, he got on a plane and flew to Washington for the first meeting of the team. And they all got together and talked about what are we going to do? What do we want to put up here? And Eric put onto the floor, he said, I want to talk about Social Security and a solution to fix it. And he told me the room was crickets, that there was nobody who was interested in having the Social Security conversation. And so the congressman-elect at that moment had the horrible experience of learning that all the great ideas he had, which were truly great ideas, were not going to be heard in Washington. At least those ideas about changing Social Security. So I don't think it's ever going to happen, Ralph. Now, I do think something that could happen is they could slowly raise the age at which people take Social Security to age 70 as full retirement age instead of age 67. Jeremy, you should probably just plan on it being that way. Yeah. And I'd be okay with something like that. So here's what I think will happen, Ralph. 2033 or 4, whenever it is, when Social Security begins running out of money, everybody says, oh, they're going to cut your Social Security check. I don't believe they will. I think they'll keep sending you the full check, but they're going to tax you in other ways. They're going to find other ways to raise taxes and suck money out of some other pocket so they can look at you and say, hey, we kept your Social Security check coming to you, so vote for us.
Yeah, and speaking of taxes, I know one of the big misconceptions I've been hearing recently, I've had many clients tell me, well, didn't the big, beautiful bill stop taxes on Social Security benefits, Barry?
Nope, didn't happen, in fact.
Exactly.
That was a great idea, but it just didn't occur. Now, they did give retirees an extra deduction, I think, off the top of my head, $12,000.
$6,000 each. So for a married couple, it's $12,000 a senior deduction.
Yeah.
But that's a below-the-line deduction, and it doesn't matter if you're claiming Social Security or not. You will get that. So, unfortunately, taxes are still going to be withheld from your Social Security, at least at the federal level.
That's exactly right. But not in Missouri. In the state of Missouri, Social Security is not taxed.
Yeah, not in our state, but just at the federal level, though.
Guys, are we still at 85% of Social Security eligible to be taxed, or has that been altered?
The maximum amount of Social Security that can be taxed is 85. There's 3 brackets, either 0%, 50%, or 85%, and it depends on what your income is. And the 85% number is
44,000 for married couples is when you get your provisional income over $44,000, then you will have up to 85% of your Social Security check will be subject to taxation. And that number seems small, I think, to most people. Of only 44,000 is what causes that. Well, yes, that's because those brackets haven't been updated since 1985.
Yeah. So in 1985, the number was 44,000.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know what the math is on that, but today, just because of inflation, that number should be somewhere in the $100,000 range.
Probably.
Yeah, during the Reagan era changes back in 85. So, gentlemen, with all this talk about Social Security running out of money in the next 8 to 10 years, Barry and Jeremy, too, how do you account for Social Security as being a solid part of a retirement plan when you design that for your clients? Can you rely on that anymore?
Well, I think you can plan on it for people our age, Ralph. We're not going to see any reductions. In fact, I would anticipate there will be increases in Social Security for you and me, cost of living adjustments. And so, what we need to do is we need to be sure that as tax rates increase, that we do enough tax planning to get you to the 0% tax bracket, the 0% bracket. And about a third of our clients can get there. And I always want to tell people that's not the poor third, it's the third that planned the best, because you can have $1 million a year in income and be in the 0% tax bracket if the income is coming from the proper tax-free sources. For younger people, Jeremy's age, my kids' age, I will say for people under 50 years old, I probably would just do my retirement planning without considering any Social Security coming their way.
And guys, what are the most common mistakes you see people make when it comes to Social Security, pulling it out and contributing to it?
Well, goodness, the most common one that I see is people just blindly claim. They don't necessarily have a strategy. They haven't run numbers. They haven't seen what their written and optimized income plan looks like. They just say, oh, well, my dad said claim it at 62, or my mom said claim it at full retirement age, and so I'm just going to do that. Well, what that ends up causing is a lot of people leaving money on the table unnecessarily. And that can also cause them to pay unnecessary taxes. So there's a lot that has to go into that. And I know we talked about this last time on our show, but it's very important that you sit down with someone who can run those hundreds of different scenarios for age combinations and the thousands of different combinations of claim strategies, so that you have a mathematical reason of when you're claiming, not only for yourself, but also your spouse, because it's going to affect both of you for the entirety of your retirement, and it'll affect the surviving spouse even longer than most of us guys.
You've been doing this long enough to have an opinion and some perspective on this.
Yeah.
From what you see, people who are coming in for retirement planning kind of work, is Social Security really still important to folks these days?
Oh, it's crucially important for a good majority of people, other than the handful of teachers we may work with. No one else typically has consistent income through retirement. The people with pensions might, but that's pretty much a thing of the past. So it's vitally important that if we have some income streams coming to us through retirement, that we're maximizing that, we're getting the most out of it as possible, and we're also paying the least amount of taxes, because it's not what you make that matters, it's what you keep that really matters. And so we want to make sure we're maximizing that, so we're not having to bleed our assets dry prematurely.
I had a guy come in last week who had $14 million.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure his Social Security check isn't really going to matter to him.
Probably not.
At least in the sense of he's not going to miss a meal if he didn't get his Social Security check. But I will tell you that Social Security is important to me and to Kelly. Together, when we're 70 years old, Social Security is going to be about $72,000 a year. And could I live without it? Yes, I could. I'm fortunate. I'm grateful for that. But the fact of the matter is I paid into it and I want my money. So whether the amount is significant or whether you have to have it really isn't the point. I paid into it, and I was promised when I did I would get something from it. So I want what I was promised. Gee whiz. I mean, I still pick up pennies when I see them on the pavement. And so I want the pennies that the federal government owes me as well, Ralph.
Hey, a lot of Ozarkers may go, I thought when Trump signed this bill on the 4th of July last time that we were getting tax cuts. And we've mentioned a lot of the time, no, taxes are going up. We have looming tax increases. Can you unpack that idea for us and tell us what we should get ready for in the last half of this year, the last quarter, we're in quarter 4 already?
Well, I think the pressure's off because everybody has heard that, now we've got the tax cuts that were made in 2017 are going to remain permanent. They're saying they're permanent. And that simply is not true. They're permanent until somebody changes them. So all that One Big Beautiful Bill did was take away the certainty of when tax hikes were going to occur, which was on December 31st. So it took us from being clear, hey, we got a problem on December 31st, to now we're in the dark. We don't know when the problem is going to hit. But at some point in your retirement future and mine, we definitely think taxes are going to go higher. And that's why strategic tax planning should be underway now, and you don't wait till the end of the year to do it. Now, the reason I mentioned the end of the year is because that's kind of when everybody realizes they need to rush around. And so the phone will start ringing in December. Hey, I want to do tax planning. Here's the story. You can't even get an appointment in December. Not that we're not willing to meet with you, but everybody's already got the appointments in December. Everybody waits till the end of the year, and there's this great rush of work. And then even if we can have the appointment and get the paperwork done, when we submit that paperwork to the custodians to process, for example, a strategic Roth integration, sometimes called a Roth conversion, that paperwork sometimes doesn't get processed in the year that it got sent in, and so you missed it. So I've got an interesting story, though, from a client I dealt with this week, Ralph, that I thought was kind of fun. These folks are giving about $10,000 a year to their church, and they don't get to deduct any of that. And the reason they don't get to deduct it is because it is under their standard deduction. So they're not itemizing, they're taking the standard deduction. And the standard deduction for this year, Jeremy, is
$31,000.
up from $30,000 before one big beautiful bill.
Correct.
They raised it just $1,000. So they get a standard deduction of $30,000. So when they give $10,000 to their church, they don't get to use that $10,000 gift on their tax returns because it's not as much as the $30,000. So here's what they're going to do, because I had suggested this to them in a newsletter that we send out. I had suggested they might want to consider donating 5 years worth, which would be $50,000, to what's called a donor advised fund. They get the deduction that year because it's worth more than their standard deduction. And then every year they can still give $10,000 a year from their donor advised fund. And they'll still be making their gift to their church. They just got the benefits, the tax benefits for making that gift. And then when they turn 70 and a half, they're going to start giving directly from their IRA using a qualified charitable distribution. So those are some of the kinds of strategies that we bring to the table tax-wise for our clients. And we bring them because taxes are going higher. It is a mathematical certainty that taxes have to go higher. The train is coming down the tracks. And I'm saying, get off the tracks. Because right now is the time when you can be paying those taxes cheaper than you will be sometime later on in your retirement. And so you need to take advantage of this opportunity today.
And do that by calling Barry and Matt and Jeremy at the Wealth Care Corporation. It is 417-200-3500. You know, friends, at the Wealth Care Corporation, taxes are at the very core of what they do. Barry designed the firm because he got frustrated hearing clients complain they couldn't get any proactive looking ahead tax advice from their financial advisor. Tax preparers don't do that. They only look at your tax numbers for last year and nothing about strategy. That's not what they do. This is what Barry does. So Barry went back to school and he got certified by the IRS in taxes. Not tax return preparation, but tax law strategies. So if you're paying more than you'd like to in income taxes and you'd like to reduce those, who would like to reduce their taxes? Call Barry at the Wealth Care Corporation. And Barry and the team will discuss strategies they use to help clients pay less. So call and text the word visit right now to 417-200-3500 or call first thing tomorrow. Somebody from Wealth Care will reach out and set up a time for you to talk with an advisor about your income tax bill for 2025 when it's time to file all that. Let's have some strategies in place, shall we? Retirement's all about mailbox money. We're going to take our break here, and as soon as we come back on the other side of the second half hour of the Watts on Wealth show, we'll dive into some of those strategies that could help you have your retirement dollars go further and last longer. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more of Watts on Wealth in just a moment or so.
Prepare for retirement with key insights from Barry Watts' Wealth Care Kit. Get your essential guide by texting KIT to 417-200-3500 and start planning today. That's 417-200-3500 KIT. Unsure of how market volatility might impact your investments? Speak with Barry Watts, who can offer strategies tailored to withstand market fluctuations. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to meet with Barry Watts today. Again, text VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Welcome back, and we're here for the second half hour of Watts on Wealth, the radio show. And this is Ralph, along with Barry Watts, retirement strategist from the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry, let's begin talking about cash. How much cash should a retiree around Springfield keep on hand right now?
You know, I've been training all of my advisors on this topic for many, many, many months and years now, so Jeremy's going to handle that.
Oh, sure. Well, the first thing we want to make sure, if you're going to have cash on hand, you need to have at least a 6 months worth of living expenses. Now, the question, at least I'd be asking myself, is okay, if I'm going to have 6 months of living expenses on hand, where am I going to put that?
Well, so if you live on $100,000 a year, that's $50,000 in cash.
Yes, sir.
So we see a lot of people who don't live on $100,000 a year who
Yeah.
have $250 in cash.
Correct. A lot of people have way more cash on hand than they truly need.
Absolutely. And that's the first big thing. So if you've got a couple $100,000 sitting in the bank and you're just a normal person, business owners are different, something like that. But just a normal person, you got 200,000 sitting in the bank and you get 40,000 a year in Social Security and you live on that, and maybe a little pension, or you take $1,000 a month out or something like that. You got way too much cash in the bank, and you're allowing your money to be lazy money. And here's the question: were you lazy? Is that how you got that money? How hard was it for you to accumulate that $200,000? I bet it was a lot of sweat. And took a long time. And now you're letting that money just languish in the bank and be happy. No, that money should get up every day and go to work. Go to work, money, go to work. And so there are things you can do with that excess cash, and that's tremendously important. But I got us a little off track because the topic was really, what are we going to do with the portion that we should have in cash?
Oh, yeah.
Which is 6 months worth of living expenses.
Yeah. So once just have the 6 months of living expenses, well, there's some options that you have of where you might want to be keeping that. One of them is, a money market. Current rates are about 4%, maybe a little better, maybe a little under. But, with interest rates, I'd expect that to probably be going down here in the next year.
Yeah, it's already gone down. My cash account, I just checked on this last week. It was paying me 4.25% for the longest time.
Yeah.
Now it's paying me 4%. So it's started down just a little bit. And, we're talking about the Federal Open Market Committee meeting here in the next few days. And when that happens, interest rates probably will be lowered again, and you'll be earning less money on your cash.
Got it. So alternatively, 3 months in a money market, and if you have, maybe a CDs or something like that, those are kind of right about.
Whoa, financial guy just recommended a CD. Oh my goodness.
Not necessarily. I don't know. It depends on the situation, Barry.
No, it would be all right for your 6 months in cash. Because if you keep 3 months really in cash or money market, then you could tie your other 3 months up in a 3-month CD.
Yeah.
The second 3 months would be in a 3-month CD. And right now, those are paying about 4.4% or something.
That's not bad.
So that's a little better rate of return. The big thing I want people to understand, Ralph, this is critically important. I want people to know that the banks are not their friend. And now that doesn't mean that the little girl who waits on you behind the counter at the bank isn't your friend. She's sweet as can be. She gives your puppy dog a lollipop when you go in, or dog treat.
I hope.
Whatever.
My goodness.
Gives your kids a lollipop. And doesn't mean that the banker himself isn't a nice guy. But what you need to realize is when you take your money into the bank and you deposit it and they pay you 1 or 2% or something like that, they then turn around and invest that money with people like us and they make 4 or 5%. So the difference between 4 or 5 and 1 or 2, that's all profit to the bank. And you can cut the middleman out. You can cut the bank out and not allow them to make that profit. You get to make that profit if you'll just do the investing yourself. Really, when you take your money and put it in the bank, any more than just your daily bread money, when you take your longer term money and put it in the bank, what you're doing is you're paying the banker to do the investing for you, but he gets to keep all the profit.
All right. And to have a discussion, if that sounds great to you, have that discussion with Barry and Jeremy. That number again is 417 in Springfield, 417-200-3500. Kind of a 007 there, but 200-3500 for Barry and Jeremy Zickefoose there at the Wealth Care Corporation. So to have our money work for us, it's all in the design of our portfolio, and we've heard about the 60-40. So what's the 60-40 mix? What's 60, what's 40, and what does that mean to our retired listeners? Does it matter to them?
Well, there are all these rules of thumb, and one of them is the idea that you should have a 60-40 portfolio, which means 60% of your money in stocks and 40% of your money in bonds is all that means. And then there's this other rule of thumb called the age 100 rule. And that's the percentage that you should have in stocks. For example, I'm 62. So it would say that if I took 100 and subtracted out 62, then that leaves me with what? 38? It would say I should have 38% in stocks and the rest of my money should be in bonds. What a laughing stock. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. I've got more like 98% in stocks. That's not the way I do it. So I would say that these rules of thumb, old maxims, mostly don't matter. They only apply in situations where people don't know any better. They're rules of thumb for the uninformed folks. So instead, what has to happen is you need to start designing your portfolio by putting together a retirement income plan. You need to know what your sitting on the porch number is. And one of the questions we even ask people is, how much are you comfortable losing? So we had a client this week that was kind of a fun and interesting case. When we asked them how much they were comfortable losing, we actually drew their number up on the board. They had $1.2 million. And we drew a straight line down, and we said, now, down at the bottom is zero. So the top is 1.2 million, bottom is zero. We said, we're just going to go down this line, and you yell stop when you've lost all the money you could stand. And the wife yelled stop before we even put the pin to the board, because she said, I don't want to lose any money. Okay, so we now know what their risk tolerance is. So we went and looked at their investments. And, we like to score out risk tolerance from 1 to 99, 1 being almost no risk, and 99 being, oh my goodness, set the house on fire. And these people who said, stop, I don't want to even lose one penny, their portfolio was traveling at 82 miles per hour. That's faster than mine. I'm a professional. I do this for a living. My portfolio doesn't go that fast. There was absolutely no excuse for it. And he did confess. He said, well, I just buy the Mag 7 stocks. And you know what? It's paid off for him, because the Mag 7 stocks have been carrying the S&P 500 for all this time, but it won't always be that way. I'm old enough to remember what happened to us in 2000 when we saw technology stocks that had increased in value 100% the previous year, then fell like a rock and gave back everything that they'd made the year before. So it's dumb to take that kind of risk. And what people want when they come to see us is, it's like this. I use this illustration. In fact, Ralph, I played basketball in high school. I just didn't play it very well. Shout out to Ron Hogue, who was my basketball coach. John Gilly was my basketball coach. And some other names that I can't really come up with right off the top of my head. But they taught us what was called a four-corner spread offense. When we got ahead on the scoreboard, they knew that whoever's ahead on the scoreboard when the buzzer sounds is who wins. So when we got ahead, they were afraid we would lose the ball and the other team would get the chance to score. So we spread it out, went to all four corners of the basketball court, and we just passed the ball back and forth among the four corners, but we didn't dribble the ball and we didn't take the ball and shoot the ball. We were just trying to burn up the clock. And so in the same way, people who have accumulated wealth for retirement and have their retirement in the bag need to dial down their risk, preserve the win, protect the ball. And so that's a conversation we have very often in our office, is about, you've already won the game, so why do you continue taking risk that you don't need? Let's protect that ball. And in the process, we help people figure out how much risk they're willing to take, what they're comfortable with. And then we design portfolios that are custom built around that preference.
Yeah. And then so tying that back to like the 60-40 split there. So if I want more protection, does that mean I just need 100% bonds?
No, it probably doesn't. In fact, we hardly use any bonds in our portfolios at all. Bonds, I can't quote the statistic, but bonds are on something like a 20-year losing streak.
Oh, so
overall.
They're not you wouldn't consider them protected.
No, bonds aren't. You can lose money in bonds. Every day people lose money in bonds because bond values change every day. If you buy a bond and hold it till maturity, you'll get back the principal that you invested in it. But most people don't even have bonds. They have what are called bond funds, big old packages of bonds. And those, you don't even know what you own, let alone what you're earning or how they're going to perform. So we don't believe in buying bond funds. We don't have any bond funds in our portfolio. And we do use some individual bonds sometimes. But I just checked bond rates this week, and I couldn't find a bond I wanted to buy this week. So right now, we're not buying any bonds. We're using other strategies to protect principal, and strategies that will actually give you a guarantee that the worst you can do is 0%. And that the best you can do is some multiple of or portion of a stock market index. And so we see those strategies come back. You had one, a lady had been with me as a client since 2016.
Yeah, she'd been here for 9 years.
And she worked over at Chase.
Yep.
That's where she worked. And so she's been with us 9 years. And she wanted all of her money protected.
Yes, sir.
And in that money that was protected, she had earned what?
6.6% per year with no market risk.
All back to 9 years. And so, just to be clear here, because there's probably a regulator listening and we need to say this in the right way.
Yeah, go for it.
Past performance does not guarantee future results. All investment is a risk. You can lose money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The fact that she had done that well doesn't guarantee that you're going to do that well. But the point is, by bringing these good, healthy strategies, you can get decent rates of return over long periods of time that will serve you well and not take risks to your principal. And that's what we want to help people accomplish.
Hey, Barry, back to your basketball analogy when you were playing. Do you think we ought to have a shot clock? We have to do something if it's a financial review with you or taking some action on increasing or lowering our risk. Should we have that proverbial financial shot clock, do you think?
Ralph, I want to congratulate you on an awesome question because that is a perfect way to ask it. Yeah, I think whether you have the shot clock or not, you need to realize the clock is ticking and you need to take action and do something. I'd recommend you pick up the phone and call us today at 417 200 3500. 417 200 3500. And just tell whoever answers the phone or leave a message and say, hey,
Yeah.
I heard Barry and Jeremy on the radio, and I want an appointment to come in and talk with somebody about getting my retirement in shape. And
Let's
we'll know
do it.
what you mean.
Yeah. Don't do four corners on your financial planning and retirement planning, folks. Not these days. We're getting to the fourth corner of our show, as it were, and we love to do the mailbag questions, Barry and Jeremy. Your questions for Barry and Jeremy when we return. This is Ralph Hipp with Barry Watts and Jeremy Zickefoose. Watts on Wealth is the radio show which returns right after we come back from this break.
Explore how Barry Watts can support your financial aspirations. Set a consultation by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Discover the possibilities at 417-200-3500 with a simple VISIT text.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
For a more confident retirement journey, get Barry Watts' WealthCare Kit. Discover strategies addressing life's biggest retirement obstacles. Request yours by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Again, that's KIT to 417-200-3500.
Time now to see what very interesting questions you have for Barry in his email inbox. We go back in time a little bit. We call it the mailbag segment, like your postal carrier slung his mailbag over his shoulder and delivered the mail. So we're going to deliver the goods here with our first question for our gentleman here. I've been saving for retirement, but I feel like I'm behind, Barry. Is it worth trying to catch up, or should I just accept that I'll need to work longer and keep on saving?
Well, let's think about the question. You said, I feel like I'm behind. And that just makes me wonder, can you trust your feelings? Have your feelings ever led you astray? You see, it really doesn't matter how you feel. What matters are what the facts are. Yeah, it's kind of like saying, well, I identify as a billionaire, so I should get better treatment that I get at the airport when I go fly. You know what? Guess what? They don't care if I identify as a billionaire. They say, well, we identify you as the guy who bought the cheap ticket, so sit down in that seat and shut up and eat your peanuts. It's kind of what they say to me. Feelings are not the point. Facts are the point. And so here's what you need to know. You need to know exactly when you can retire or whether you need to work longer. And the only way that you can figure that out is to get a retirement income plan to age 100 completed for you. So that's what we do for people who come into our office. It's one of the first steps we go through is a retirement income plan. So call our office and tell them you want a retirement income plan to age 100. One of our advisors will meet with you. It might even be Jeremy. Who knows? You might be fortunate in that way. And you may be surprised when he does that math for you to learn that you've got the income that you need to go to all the way to 100. Or if you don't have, he can offer you some solutions that might stretch your money a little longer and get you where you're going. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know that you can retire and do it with a sense of confidence that you're going to have money to last you all the way to 100? Well, we help people to figure those things out in our work at the WealthCare Corporation.
And they do that all the time over there at 417-200-3500. I'd put Wealth Care Corporation in your contacts there. Dial the number, save it. Put Barry or Jeremy's picture in there. And when they call you back, you're going to see Barry pop up, just like he pops up on television. So, oh, Barry's calling me back about my appointment. You'll feel so much better about having that conversation with Barry and Matt, Dean, and Jeremy, and all the crew over there. This goes back to what we discussed before, and I would venture to say, you guys are the professionals, but I'd venture to say there's no magic formula for this. This person's writing, I've heard a lot about Social Security, when to take it. I don't know when I should start. What factors should I be thinking about on drawing my benefits?
Well, that is a great question. It is quite complex. That is one of the things that so many people bring up, because there are 81 different age combinations and hundreds and hundreds of different claiming strategies. And so how do you know which one is actually right for you? How do you know which one is right for your spouse? You don't if you're just guessing. That's why it's very helpful to run your numbers, to actually do the math, sit down and figure out what is the best way to maximize my benefit so I can get the largest check possible. But also, you want to double check that with your written and optimized income plan. You want to make sure that that still works given all the different intricacies of your scenario, that is the best time for you and your spouse. Make sure that it's not triggering some extra taxation so that you get to keep the entirety of your check. Because I'm going to keep saying it, it's not what you make that matters, it's what you keep that matters. So it's figuring out the best way to get the maximum amount of Social Security, but also keep the most as possible.
Well, that sounds like a headache. How do I figure that out?
Well, one of the big things that, at least if you were coming to work with us, I would need is your Social Security statement. That has all of the information on it that I'd be able to help use to start running those different scenarios to figure out what is the best solution and best path for you.
So I don't have to figure this out myself?
No, you do not have to. And if you want to, goodness gracious, that would be quite a feat. But, I do this every single day. And so I'd be more than happy to look over your numbers and see what makes sense for you so that you can not only have the biggest check possible, but also ideally not pay any of that back in taxes.
And all you need is my Social Security statement that tells how much my projected income is going to be.
Well, that'll be at least the first key to determine when is the best time to maximize your benefit.
Okay.
But the second thing, I want to then verify those numbers that they work with your written and optimized income plan.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have one of those, well, then great, I can verify it with that. But most of the time, we are also working on building those for people as well. And so when we can have that as another piece to double check and make sure that, yep, this is the best way to get us the most money at age 100, or this increases our income from 85 to 95, that will give us the certainty that, yes, this is the best path to go forward.
And I'm just thinking about how this works forward. The next question is about the taxability of my Social Security.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to want to see my tax return, because if you got that tax return you can look at, then it tells you where everybody falls in line and whether they'll be taxed on their Social Security
Well,
payments.
you bring up a good point. It's almost like you need a holistic retirement planner to look at all of these things, because even though you just want to talk about Social Security, well, everything that you do in regards to your other taxable income from pensions, or if you're working a job, or your investments and capital gains, all these different things factor in and can affect not only your Social Security, but they trickle into your Medicare and your premiums that you may be paying. And that's all going to boil down to then the income that you're actually going to be able to have through the entirety of your retirement. So it's hard to just say definitively, oh, claim at 62 or claim at 70, because everyone is completely different. And until you look at the whole picture, you're not going to really know for certain.
So how much I take in Social Security and when I take it can actually affect how much I pay for Medicare.
Entirely.
It is a tangled web we weave.
Oh,
but
yes.
the guys at the Wealth Care Corporation, the guys and the gals who are here to take care of you, can do that. And they can do it for you easier than you can even think about it. You just need to get your stuff together, get an appointment, come over and see us. So pick up the phone and dial 417-200-3500 and say, I want a meeting to talk about Social Security. And they'll know what the purpose of that is. And they'll sit down with you and start you through that process and tell you what other things to bring so that you can actually get a holistic retirement plan completed. The number is 417-200-3500. If you're in prison, call.
Oh.
417. Oops. Sorry about that. That was a reference earlier in the show where we had the people call from prison.
That is
anyway.
pretty cool, though. That's pretty
Yeah,
good. They're
well,
watching
I don't know
us.
if it's cool or not, but
Makes
it's
a good
nice.
story.
It's nice to know you've got broadcast reach that goes into the darkest parts of Southwest Missouri.
We've got some reach, yeah. Guys, I wanted to just pat myself on the back. Ralph's having a celebration. I've been officially retired for 3 years now. So it's been a wild ride, Springfield to Topeka, and right back around to Springfield with you, Barry, and almost 3 years with you has been fantastic. But we leave our accounts where we leave our jobs, don't we? And this person writes, I have several old retirement accounts from my different jobs. Should I combine those, or is it better to leave them where they are?
Well, let me just ask you this question in response to your question. Why would you not combine them? Because multiple accounts mean that you have more to keep up with. Your
Right.
life is more complex. And if you are rebalancing like you should be, then you have to rebalance several accounts instead of just one. So there is no good reason for keeping your money scattered high, west, and crooked across the country at every little job that you ever had. If you're going to watch it and manage it and keep up with it and make it tax efficient, it needs to be all swept together in the fewest accounts possible. And for most people, that means that each spouse needs an IRA. Each spouse needs a Roth IRA, and then they need one joint account for non-IRA money. We had a lady in the office just this week who had an old 401k plan and an old pension plan at Tyson Foods. Now, she's moved out of Arkansas for many, many years, like 40, and she's totally lost track of her 401k and pension, and she doesn't know what she has, if she has anything, or where or how to find it. And if she had been busy sweeping up her stuff, and if she had had somebody like us, a holistic planner at the Wealth Care Corporation, keeping track of those things, then she would know where that money is right now and wouldn't have to go searching for it.
Yeah. I actually had a client in about a month ago, and she had an old 401k that we were able to help track down. The last time she had contributed to it was back in, I believe, 1997. And there was $80,000 in that account that she was just going to let go to the wind. No, she didn't even want to. She didn't even want to try to start looking and track that down. She thought the phone call was going to be too difficult.
Well, isn't that interesting? And I get that, because sometimes there are phone calls I don't want to make. First of all, you made that call for her. With her, all she had to do was sit there and say, yes, you have permission to talk to Jeremy on my behalf. And so you found $80,000 for her.
Well, I mean, my only question to you is, well, what other job can you go find where you made $80,000 in an hour?
Yeah, I didn't even take that.
I don't even think about
and
that.
Somebody else did all the heavy lifting. You dialed the phone for her.
Exactly.
And we paid for the phone call.
Oh, entirely.
Dude, you get great service at the Wealth Care Corporation.
I'm trying.
Everybody ought to come. And the way you get here is by picking up the phone and dialing the number 417-200-3500. It's Sunday morning. If you call today, you'll get a voicemail. You just tell them, hey, I want the works. It's just like ordering the big pizza. Just tell them you want the works. You want everything that we can do for you as a retiree. And they'll
Pick
know
this
what
topping
that means.
pick that topping and this topping and put it all together and bake it. And
They'll set you up for a great
Yes.
appointment with one of our advisors, and it'll be a fabulous experience. I had a lady just yesterday tell me. It wasn't yesterday. It was a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
It was this week. And this lady told me, she said, since I came to work with you all, I cannot believe the level of service and care that I have received, Barry, from you and your team at the Wealth Care Corporation. She said, it's better than I experience in my own family. And man, that meant a lot to me. At the end of the day, we are managing money and helping people with taxes and all those kind of things, but we're dealing with human beings in their lives, and we want to care for them and care for them well. And we bust our hump every day to take great care of them. And that's what we'll do if you'll come join us at the Wealth Care Corporation.
Gentlemen, it's been a fantastic hour, and I believe one of the many ways in which the Wealth Care Corporation serves people is by being on the radio, reaching out, making that connection. And friends, you call and make the connection back to us. So it's a real joy and a pleasure to be with you on the radio, gentlemen, every Sunday morning. And Barry and Jeremy, thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Ralph. See you again next week.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph.
Yes. And hope you'll join us again right here, same time, same station. This is Ralph Hipp. You've been listening to Barry Watts and Jeremy Zickefoose of the Wealth Care Corporation. And that's it for this weekend's Watts on Wealth radio show. Bye for now.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for What's on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.